There's something both chilling and heartbreaking about the end of a narcissist's life. On the surface, they may look like people who had it all: control, admiration, even power. But beneath that facade lies a hollow truth. When the spotlight fades and the applause dies, their ending is often not just lonely, but terrifying, not because of what surrounds them, but because of what they refuse to face within themselves. A narcissist's entire life is built around performance. Every smile, every compliment, every story they tell is part of a carefully constructed mask. They wear it to impress, to dominate, to avoid ever being seen for who they truly are. For decades, many of them succeed at convincing the world and even themselves that the mask is reality. But here's the truth: no mask lasts forever. Life has a way of stripping away our disguises. Illness can weaken the body. Age can soften the voice. Time can dull the charm that once drew people in. And when those external shields fall, the narcissist is left with nothing to hide behind. This is the moment they dread the most, because what lies beneath is not strength, but fragility, not power, but insecurity. All the fear, shame, and emptiness they buried under layers of control and arrogance suddenly come rushing to the surface. And for the first time, the world begins to see them without the armor. The scariest part is not that others finally see through them, it's that they finally see themselves. A lifetime of pretending can no longer protect them from the truth staring back in the mirror. The mask that once gave them power now betrays them, revealing the loneliness, regret, and hollowness they tried to escape. When the mask slips, it's not just a crack in the image, it's the collapse of their entire identity. A narcissist's life depends on relationships, but not in the way most of us understand them. To them, people are not companions, they are fuel. They are mirrors reflecting back admiration, control, and validation. Every friendship, partnership, or family bond is filtered through one question: what can this person give me? At first, the charm works. Narcissists can be magnetic, witty, and persuasive. They know how to make people feel special until the mask slips and the cycle of manipulation begins. Slowly, trust is eroded, promises are broken, love becomes conditional based on whether others meet their endless demands. Over the years, this pattern leaves scars. Spouses grow weary of walking on eggshells. Children, once eager for affection, learn that no amount of love will ever be enough. Friends realize they are valued only when they serve a purpose. And piece by piece, the foundation of every relationship starts to crumble. In the beginning, people may stay, hoping, praying, giving second chances, but as awareness grows, so does the courage to step away. Partners leave to reclaim their freedom. Adult children distance themselves to protect their sanity. Even loyal friends eventually cut the cord, choosing peace over constant chaos. And this is where the narcissist's nightmare begins. By the time they reach the later years of life, the very people they counted on to orbit around them are gone. Phone calls go unanswered, invitations stop coming, holidays pass in silence. The spotlight they once controlled so fiercely dims into complete darkness. What remains is isolation, not because people didn't care, but because people could no longer survive the toxicity. The collapse of relationships is not sudden. It's the slow, steady result of years of taking more than giving, of demanding more than cherishing. For a narcissist, control is everything. It is the oxygen they breathe, the currency they trade, and the weapon they wield. Control gives them the illusion of power, the sense that they are always one step ahead, untouchable and superior. It shows up in subtle ways, deciding what others should think, dictating how conversations unfold, and rewriting history to fit their narrative. And in darker ways, it shows up in manipulation, intimidation, and emotional domination. But here's the truth about control. It is fragile. Life has a way of reminding us that none of us are as powerful as we pretend to be. Time weakens the body, finances shift, Careers end, beauty fades, and the very people they once controlled grow stronger, wiser, and less willing to play by their rules. The slow erosion terrifies the narcissist. Imagine someone who spent a lifetime pulling the strings, suddenly realizing the strings are slipping out of their hands. That sharp tongue no longer silences their partner. Those guilt trips no longer sway their children. Their intimidation no longer inspires fear, it inspires pity. The control they once clung to begins to dissolve, and with it their entire sense of identity. Without control, they are left exposed, vulnerable, powerless. And because their entire self-worth was tied to domination, the loss feels unbearable. They may lash out with anger, desperate to cling to the old dynamic. They may try new tactics, playing the victim, spreading fear, or manufacturing drama. But each attempt falls flatter than the last, because people have learned over time to walk away. The scariest part is this: when control slips away, the narcissist realizes how little they truly have. They do not have deep trust to lean on. They do not have unconditional love to hold them. They do not have genuine respect that stands the test of time. What they have is a crumbling EMP, ire built on fear and manipulation, and in the end, that empire collapses. And so, as control escapes their grasp, they are forced to confront the truth they avoided their whole life, that power without love is empty, and control without connection is meaningless. When the noise of life fades and the crowd disappears, every person is left with themselves. For most of us, that moment, looking in the mirror of our own life, brings a mixture of joy, gratitude, and a few regrets we can make peace with. But for the narcissist, this moment is terrifying because their reflection carries a truth they can no longer run from. For decades, they spent their energy building an image, not a life. They fought to be admired rather than to be loved, feared rather than respected, obeyed rather than understood. But as the years pass, the stories they told themselves start to unravel. The mirror does not show the mask, it shows the reality. And what do they see? They see the children who grew up carrying wounds instead of warmth. They see the partner who gave everything yet walked away empty. They see friendships that were used, not cherished. They see opportunities lost, not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked humility. The mirror becomes a harsh judge. Every manipulation, every betrayal, every lie is etched in the lines of their life story. And unlike the past, where they could shift blame onto others, there is no one left to control in this moment. The silence of the room makes the truth louder than ever. They are the architect of their own loneliness. Some narcissists try to deny what they see. They rage at the mirror, pointing fingers at everyone else. They convince themselves that others were ungrateful, too sensitive, or disloyal. But deep down in the quiet corners of their heart, the truth gnaws at them. Regret is unavoidable. And this regret is not the jikioi omnidia omien. Ental kind that helps people grow. It is corrosive, heavy, and bitter. It is the realization that the love they rejected cannot be reclaimed, the time they wasted cannot be restored, and the people them. If there is one thing a narcissist craves more than control, it is significance. They do not just want to live, they want to be remembered, admired, envied, and needed. Attention is their lifeline. Applause is their heartbeat. Every achievement, every display of charm, every power play is designed to reinforce one thing: I matter more than you. But the tragedy is that time does not play favorites. No matter how powerful, wealthy, attractive, or influential they once were, age has a way of shifting the spotlight. Their influence begins to fade. Younger, fresher voices take the stage, new leaders rise, new trends dominate, and suddenly the narcissist finds themselves standing in the shadows of a world that no longer revolves around them. For most people, this shift is natural. We understand that significance is not measured by how loudly the world applauds, but by how deeply we touch the lives of those we loved. We lean into legacy, family, community, and wisdom. But the narcissist cannot. Their entire identity was built on being seen, and when the audience stops watching, they feel like they no longer exist. The fear of irrelevance eats at them. They may exaggerate stories of their past glory, desperate to prove they once mattered. They may cling to status symbols, money, titles, possessions, even when those things no longer impress anyone. They may lash out at the younger generation, jealous of the attention others now receive. But beneath the anger lies terror, the terror of fading into obscurity. The applause they live for is gone. The admiration they demanded is no longer offered. The world, once orbiting around them, moves forward without a second glance. And this is where the ending becomes truly scary, because while most people can face mortality with peace, knowing they were loved, the narcissist faces it with dread. They realize that when their name is spoken, it may not be in honor, but in warning. Their legacy is not greatness, but emptiness. The fear of irrelevance is not just about being forgotten. It is about realizing they were never truly known in the first place. Loneliness is not simply the absence of people, it is the absence of connection. And for the narcissist, connection has always been conditional. They never learned to bond through love, empathy, or vulnerability. Instead, they built relationships as transactions. What can you give me? How do you make me look? How do you feed my ego? For a time, this works. People orbit them, drawn in by charm, power, or obligation. But transactional relationships are fragile. The moment people realize they are being used, they start to drift away. One by one, the friends, partners, and even children step back, choosing freedom over exploitation. And so, by the later stages of life, the narcissist finds themselves surrounded not by warmth, but by distance. Their phone doesn't ring, invitations stop coming, birthdays pass quietly. And even if someone does show up, the energy is different. It's out of duty, not love. Presence without intimacy, proximity without care. For most of us, loneliness can be softened by community, faith, or the comfort of shared memories. But for the narcissist, those things are absent. They burned bridges instead of building them. They demanded loyalty, but never offered love. They expected sacrifice, but never gave it. And now the silence of the room is deafening. What makes this loneliness terrifying is that it is self-created. They cannot blame bad luck, fate, or circumstance. Their isolation is the natural consequence of a life spent pushing people away. And unlike others who can lean on the bonds they nurtured, the narcissist has nothing to return to. Loneliness becomes their constant companion, the visitor who never leaves. It's shade. Ouse them in their final days, whispering the truth they fought to avoid. You are alone, not because no one cared for you, but because you refused to care for anyone else. This is not the quiet solace of gods. Bitterness is one of the heaviest burdens a human soul can carry. For many of us, age has the potential to soften us. We learn forgiveness, we gather wisdom, and we let go of what no longer matters. But for the narcissist, age rarely brings softness. Instead, it sharpens the edges. The older they grow, the more their spirit corrodes under the weight of resentment. Why? Because bitterness is born when a person refuses accountability. Throughout their lives, narcissists blame others for their failures. If a relationship crumbles, it's the partner's fault. If a career stalls, it's the boss's fault. If their children distance themselves, it's because they're ungrateful. They rewrite every story to protect their fragile ego. But as time passes, those excuses begin to feel thin even to themselves. And rather than facing the truth, they double down on anger. They look at others who have built families full of love, friendships full of laughter, and communities full of respect, and they feel envy gnawing at them instead of asking, what What choices did I make that led me here? They rage. Why do they have what I deserve? Jealousy turns into scorn, resentment turns into poison, and bitterness becomes their daily language. This bitterness doesn't just stay inside, it spills out. They lash out at caregivers. They belittle those who try to help. They mock the success or happiness of others because it reminds them of everything they lost. What could have been moments of tenderness in their later years become moments of hostility. Their spirit, instead of being lifted by gratitude, is dragged down by resentment. And here is the tragedy. Bitterness doesn't punish others nearly as much as it punishes the narcissist. It eats away at them from the inside, turning their days dark and their nights restless. Instead of finding comfort in reflection, they find torment. Instead of key, they find rage. The erosion is slow but undeniable. With each passing year, the spark of joy dims, the capacity for kindness disappears, and the weight of negativity consumes them. Their body may still be alive, but their spirit has withered, eaten away by the acid of bitterness. For most people, the end of life is not just about dying. It is about reflection. It is about holding the hands of loved ones, sharing stories, finding comfort in faith, or simply feeling the warmth of having lived a meaningful life. There is sorrow, yes, but there is also peace, a kind of soft landing. But for the narcissist, mortality is not a gentle closing of the curtain. It is a storm. And the reason is simple. Peace cannot exist where authenticity never did. They spent their lives running from vulnerability, terrified of admitting weakness, and obsessed with control. But death is the one thing they cannot charm, manipulate, or dominate. Mortality strips away the illusion of superiority. It levels everyone, the powerful and the powerless, the admired and the forgotten. And for the narcissist, this leveling is unbearable. When faced with their own end, they do not see a lifetime of love.